Welcome back to our second book club for Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Boom's comic book series, written by Kyle Higgins, with art by Hendry Prasetya, and with art colors by Matt Herms and letters by Ed Dukeshire. He does all the lettering for even the fill-in arts, because there are fill-ins. Number 5 is art by Thony Silas and Brian Valenza. And number 10 is Jon Lam and Joanna Lafente. And then, of course, backups by Steve Orlando, Corin Howell, Brian Valenza, and Ed Dukeshire on letters.
Yep.
So this is the second and third volumes, because the first volume was rather short. We decided to pair up volumes.
Yeah, there's only 4 issues, so we're like, yeah, let's just keep going.
Yeah, so
issues 5 through 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's just get into it. We were a little disappointed by the length of volume 1. How do we feel about doubling up?
I don't think the length so much. I mean, the length was a problem, but I didn't feel there was much real good characterization. I think these 2 volumes are a massive improvement in a lot of ways, but I still feel that all the characters sound the same. I think the art is fantastic. The Black Dragon legitimately is probably the coolest thing the Power Rangers have ever made. That is so cool. That villain is so radical. But I just found most of the characters sounding very samey. But I liked everything that I read. I want more character stuff, and I don't think I'm getting it.
I've tried to think about that since the last time we read it, and I'm wondering if this is just a problem with Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Where like the characters have very basic dialogue.
Yeah.
And like in being true to the series, are they just not allowed to like sound very different?
See, I say that, but then I read the Bulk and Skull stuff, and that sounds like a 90s cartoon, but it's fun to read.
No, I get that. And so let me follow up. Like I think Billy in these issues has a voice now.
Billy and Goldar hang out, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's good stuff.
I think Billy has a voice now.
Yeah.
I think Tommy has had a voice since volume 1.
Yeah.
And I think is it Zach? Is Zach the black guy?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Zach is starting to have his own voice.
Yes.
But Jason and Trini and Kim all still just sound generic.
Yeah.
And I can't, like, if you put your hand over the art of them, I couldn't tell you which one is talking.
That was my problem.
Sure.
But I do think like we're headed in a better direction with Zach. I do think I totally get Billy now. Like Billy has a presence and a character, and Tommy has had that.
It seems like, before you guys go, because we're talking about this thing, it seems like whenever you put the characters in specific situations, it allows their character to shine, like with Billy or Zach. But when they're all just grouped together, it just sounds like a bunch of teenagers talking with no differentiation.
Yeah, and I think that's more prominent of a problem, not just like when they're being the Power Rangers and they're fighting, but when they're just like being teenagers around each other. It's like y'all just sound like one person.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I don't disagree at all. I was a little concerned, going back to like the length. The next issue after volume 1 ends is a fill-in issue. Issue 5, and it doesn't continue the cliffhanger from the first volume. And I was a little concerned about it because of that length of volume 1. And I was like, okay, well, what's the point if you're not going to add on? I do think volume 1 should have been further along. But I found myself enjoying the direction that they took Zach, with Rita being like, hey, Zach, I just want to do this whole thing. And like, I found myself enjoying that issue a bit as a kind of like enhancement on what Zach wants.
Yes, I agree. I'm going to tell you right now, this all ties into what we were just saying. There's a very specific reason why I feel like Zach now has a voice and why Billy has a voice. They had fill-in issues in these 2 volumes. I understand those characters because they were spotlighted now. It almost feels like this demands a volume of fill-in issue one-shots about each Power Ranger for me to feel like they're at least starting to have an identity. Because the thing is, like, and it's weird because it's not, oh, now I understand who Zach's been up to this point. Zach became a character after the fill-in issue happened. Once the fill-in issue happened, in the main story that's happening, Zach suddenly starts talking more and being engaged in more conversations and doing more. And the same thing happens with Billy. Billy has a fill-in issue, and then Billy's a prominent feature in the story. And I'm like, okay, So I have to wait for a fill-in issue for someone to actually get involved and separate themselves from the unit of the Rangers.
Right, Ben.
Going back to your original question, I thought doubling up was actually a good idea because I felt like we got more story, and the Black Dragon stuff is just so freaking cool. And I was surprised we got to see Lord Draken this early. I didn't think I thought we were gonna get like maybe another volume down the line until Lord Draken shows up. But now we're getting to one of the biggest villains that are now in like current Power Rangers lore. I'm like, oh, we're going here now? Hell yeah, let's go.
I will say that like if I'm not criticizing based on like us doing this, just like I still think 4-issue trade volumes is a terrible idea. Even more so now with the fill-in issues added. I'm like, this is a terrible way to present this.
Because then it's almost like a 3-issue volume.
So when I was reading this, issue 5, 6, 7, issue 8 ends with the reveal that they are now all Green Rangers because they used the green morphing grid to morph. That's a horrible place to end that volume. Where you end that volume is when Billy and Tommy are in the parallel dimension.
Yeah,
that's the end of the volume.
Right. Like the end of the volume should be Lord Draken's reveal.
These trades should be 6 issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I'm really curious if this is like Boom's idea to make these volumes this short, or it's Kyle Higgins making 4-issue arcs. I don't know if it's
they're not 4-issue arcs because the end of the arc is the revelation that they're in a parallel dimension.
Yeah, it's odd.
But that's in volume 3.
I think it's Boom trying to squeeze as many volumes out as they can, which is shitty.
I don't love that. We're talking just design wise, marketability wise. I think that's really bad.
Also, real quick, isn't there also a Pink Ranger solo comic happening at the same time as this comic happened? It's like a miniseries. There's a Pink Ranger miniseries. Yeah, there's a Pink Ranger miniseries that came out around the launch of this book. So that's where that characterization is. In that book we have to buy, which kind of sucks. But hey, if you like the Pink Ranger, there she is. But like, we're not getting much of her in this book.
Yeah. I for the most part, what's his name? Hendry Prasetya's art is amazing. And Ryan, you're absolutely right. The Black Dragon is one of the coolest designs I've ever seen.
It straight looks like a kaiju, like a walking kaiju man.
Yeah.
Like again, like if there was a model kit that I can build like in my Evangelions, I will buy that figure because that is seriously one of the coolest Power Ranger designs I've ever seen, because it doesn't look traditionally. It looks like a straight up like kaiju monster. It's got like teeth coming out. It's so cool. I love it.
It's mechanical but organic.
Yes.
It's like a kaiju from Pacific Rim, and Mechagodzilla from the 1970s had a baby.
Yeah.
Yes. I wish that they would collect more story in these things. I'm glad we did 8 issues at a time. The art is fantastic all across the board. Every single thing, issue, fill-in issue, main story, backstory with Bulk and Skull. It's all great. The colors are so vibrant.
The Zach fill-in issue in issue 5 when they're fighting the Vitruvian Man, I thought was really funny.
Yeah, I love that because he's spouting off Da Vinci quotes, and when he dies, he says, "I thought I was learning to live, but I was only learning to die."
Yeah,
and there's some very seriously like serious shit like sporadically in these 2 volumes, and I'm like, oh man, I kind of just wish you went hard like this all the time. But it's a kid book, you can't. But like, there's definitely not so much in the first volume, but volumes 2 and 3, it's starting to inch towards like maturity. Kind of like the stuff I wanted from like that new Transformer stuff, right? Like, give me some real political shit. And like the stuff with Zach and Rita, like we're getting some of that. Like, there's so many kernels of ideas that I just wish it was I wish it was more focused, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think continuing on from the first volume, this is still tonally what I've wanted from Power Rangers, what I want to see from this franchise. And I think the story is there. It's just, it's just not really like quite coming into place yet.
I think the story, like all the alternate dimension, all the story stuff is great. It's just you can't connect to a story if you don't connect to the characters, right? So and I'm slowly starting to get more characters, but like I just wish, like I'm up to issue 12 and I still don't know half the cast. I feel like that's a problem.
So I really like the fill-in issue about Zach. I really like the Vitruvian Man thing. I like that he's made out of internet quotes. But what I really like about it is just this whole thing that Rita does to try to sell Zach on the idea that, like, hey, you know, maybe you should actually be the guy making the calls. Maybe you should be in charge. I could give you that. We could bring about peace. Here, look, here's a vision of yourself as the Green Ranger. And I'm like, this is really dope. This is really good character stuff. I have a question, though. How come Zach treats Tommy like shit when he understands exactly why he's the Green Ranger?
I thought it was interesting because, this flashback issue takes place a month before Tommy shows up, is that right?
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, we're getting insight of, maybe he wasn't the first choice to be the Green Ranger, which is interesting. But that also brings up a good point. If you understand what Tommy is going through, why aren't you more sympathetic toward his cause? But again, he's like a bad guy, or he was a bad guy. But I see what you mean.
But like Zach knew this was the game then.
Yeah.
When the Green Ranger shows up, he should spot on be like, I get what this is. I get what this is. And when Tommy decides he wants to switch sides, Zach should be the guy leading the charge to get Tommy involved.
Yeah.
To get Tommy to feel comfortable.
Like, I know,
because he should know exactly what Tommy was promised, exactly what Tommy thought he could do.
So here's the wrinkle. Here's the problem with that. It wasn't in the show.
Yes.
And that and I don't agree with that idea. Like, you should be able to, like, you know, now that you've added this new wrinkle, you should be able to retcon that idea. But because they are still trying to be like, it's still kind of the show, you know, they can't do that.
Yeah, so like fundamentally what doesn't work about it is that fill-in issue happens, which is issue 5. And in issue 6, there's like an immediate panel where Zach is giving Tommy shit. And I'm like, this doesn't work. This doesn't make sense. Yeah. I want to connect to this character. You need to, like, I can even forgive that the first 4 issues we didn't see Zach like giving Tommy that until we see this flashback. But after we see the flashback, you should have Zach actively trying to engage with Tommy, actively trying to work with him, because we get it now. Yes. Otherwise, what's the point of having the fill-in issue? What did you do? What did you show us?
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's a good line. It's Kim, the Pink Ranger? Kim?
Yeah,
I never, for some reason, she's the one I can never remember the name. There's a great line, like the male Rangers are arguing, and she says, "Oh my God, if you guys don't chill out, somebody's gonna slip on the testosterone and break their neck." I thought that was a cute little line. You know, boys will be boys and stupid.
Basically, the plot of the second volume is that the Black Dragon has taken the Morphin Grid away from the Power Rangers, and Rita has solidified kind of her rule in the command center. And they're going to take over the world with the Zords, and they got a 24-hour time limit. And the Power Rangers are in a pocket dimension, in one of Zordon's pocket dimensions, trying to figure out what their next move is going to be.
Zordon's gone,
and Billy is gone too.
Yeah, shit's bad. The Rangers, they don't have the powers. They can't access the Morphin Grid. They're getting attacked by a big black dragon. It's not going well. Billy's locked up with Goldar,
which is great.
That's my favorite stuff from this entire thing. Goldar's a standout for me.
No, the Goldar and the Billy stuff in jail is actually one of my favorite bits of the book. Because normally I'm like, let's get to the Zords, let's get to the fight scenes. But Billy trying to talk to Goldar and trying to understand him. One of the things I really like about this Power Rangers book is because if my memory serves from watching Goldar and Finster and all the other bad guys from the 90s TV show, they're all bombastically, I don't want to say flamboyant, but they're more exaggerated. They go like, 10,000 years, I'm free. They're loud, they're crazy, they're
Ryan's right. Theatrical.
Thank you. Yes. And seeing Goldar as a much more subdued and subservient person, like when he's telling Billy that I choose to be here because my Empress wills it.
That's the best shit. That gives you so much more insight into Goldar's character than literally anything else before.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm really enjoying this book series so much, is because it still takes the goofiness of the Power Rangers growing up, like the costumes, the Megazords, the crazy villains. Like one of my favorite standout issues is a standalone with Billy where he can't make the shot against that villain, and Kim makes a shot, and then he runs 64 training exercises making said shot. Like he's still training to be better. But seeing just Goldar, like, I am serving my Empress, and if she wants me locked away, I'm going to be locked away. Instead of, because I feel like in the 90s, he would have been like, how dare she lock me away for doing this? So everyone else has failed against the Power Rangers, so I'm no different.
that's why it's important that he's locked up, because Billy says an exact thing like, "Yo, we beat you 100 times before. Why are you locked up now?" It's because of the why is it again? Actually,
it's because of the black dragon.
Okay, the black dragon. But like Goldar says, "My empress knows the value I provide. In time, she will remember. She has to."
Right.
And that line of "she has to" gives so much weight and like emotion to Goldar that he's never had before. Just those 3 words. And Billy's like, "Oh, this dude like loves this woman. Like not love, but like he is so loyal to his queen. Like even when she beats him up, he's like, "Oh, I deserve this." Like that is
the extra mile. He 100% has blind faith in
and one of the things I really liked about that is that Billy is able to talk about like, hey, you don't like the black dragon. We don't like the black dragon. On on Earth, we say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And it kind of like comes to full circle when he's just like, enemy of my enemy, enemy of my enemy. Let me go.
And then we learn Goldar, he can escape this prison, but he, much like Superman, he is taking his punishment. And I'm like, that is so baller, because he lets Billy escape, and he's like, don't make me regret this or whatever. But like, he could have escaped anytime he wanted, but no, he's taking the lashes because that's what the queen wanted.
Then he lies to Rita when she shows up, and he's still playing because he wants to be back at Rita's side. He's like, hey, the kid had a communicator, didn't realize he could do that, so my bad.
Yeah.
And then when she offers him to come back, she's like, oh yeah, I finally get what I want.
Yeah, Goldar for me definitely is my favorite shit out of all these volumes.
Goldar.
I hope he's in it a lot more, because I didn't read much past this. I don't remember where I stopped, but it was around here. Not for lack of quality, just I pick up too many comics, But I really hope there's more Goldar, because he's great.
Also, I feel like Rita. I don't know if this is just me reading into it and the general tone of the book, but I feel like Rita is a lot more menacing in these 2 arcs than she.
I agree. I find her to be more. I find a lot of the villains to be less theatrical in the comic, and I kind of prefer it personally.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the 90s show is the 90s show, but I find this Rita to be more in tune with Elizabeth Banks' Rita
in the show would never have grabbed Zach and calmly explained, hey, look, I really want peace. Yeah. I want unity under one entity. Mm-hmm. We're working towards a similar goal. Like the show Rita would never do that.
The show, again, it's not like it was not trying to do this, because it's a kid's show. Like there's no depth to that show, right? It is a fun monster of the week. Sometimes there's some drama, but it's no drama that a 7-year-old can handle, right? And like the comic, it is showing like, hey, Rita's a bad person, but also she's smart and she will do whatever she needs to win. Mm-hmm. And if she has to like smooch, she has to like try to convince the Rangers that she's a good guy, she will absolutely do that. And she would never do that in the show, because she's like, I'm evil. But in here, she's like, I'm evil.
Rita's max volume is at 11. The lowest she'll go is maybe a 9.
Yeah. And I love the way that the artists draw. I love shadows in comics. Like when a good colorist, like when she has like the dark eyes, like you can't see her pupils. It's like evil shadow eyes. Yeah. I love that in comics. Like she is so sinister. Rita rules in this comic for sure. Mm-hmm. And again, I only read that character in the voice from the show where she talks like this. Like it's
the only time I was able to read her voice is in the Bulk and Skull stuff in the end, which I also really enjoyed.
She's definitely Rita from the show.
I like that Bulk and Skull stuff before, but like reading 8 issues of like all the stuff all together, I love that stuff. I almost wish the tone of the comic were that, because that is the bonkers 90s show. In 2019 or 2018 or whenever this came out. I think Steve Orlando kills it. I think he kills it writing that 90s dialogue.
So I agree that the Bulk and Skull stuff is a lot of fun to read. I'm happy it's only 2 pages in each issue though, because I feel like any longer and it does start to kind of wear out its welcome.
Yeah.
Sure.
For me personally, like that's just me.
I'm a big fan.
I agree.
And also these last couple issues, the issue 12, is the end of it. It looks like there's no more after this, because it's the first one that says the end at the end of it. So I don't know what they're going to do next.
My favorite gag, honestly, in all of Bulk and Skull, there's 2 things that I really stood out to me. One is Bulk going in and trying to get the sandwich that's named after him and getting super pissed off, which I thought was a great bit. But the other thing that I love, my favorite joke in Bulk and Skull, is Don't act surprised, Stone. You think I'd get that angry over a little old sandwich? This was my real plan. After all, Bulk and Skull are heroes. And then it says, next, Bulk and Skull are not heroes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, solid. Solid.
Yeah, Officer Stone, I really
Jerome Stone.
And he's like a grammar Nazi, whatever, and he's like, "Don't be ridiculous. This machine isn't equipped for ambersands." And like, amber's sand? What are you talking about? Because Bogus School don't know what an ampersand is. It's just little things like that that were super clever. And it's just like, yeah, maybe this doesn't need its own comic, but like, I absolutely love the that we can have both the mature '90s show and just the '90s show. I think it's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I just love the part when Bulk is trying to convince the cop, to stay around and to protest his sandwich, because he's like, "What if it was coffee?" And he's like,
"Yeah,
coffee." He's like, "Okay, that's."
And then the cop joins the protest. Yeah,
and I'm not gonna lie, it makes it so that when Bulk and Skull show up in the main comic, I'm more excited about it.
Same.
Like, if we didn't have those backstories, I wouldn't really care.
Yeah.
But I really like where Bulk and Skull are used in the main story here, which is when they open up with their video blog thing, and it's about Rita's one, and they're like, yeah, we got. If you're looking for us to tell you some good Ranger news, that's not gonna happen, man.
I love how the artist draws the Zords.
Mm-hmm.
I think he makes the Zords look way cooler than they ever did in that show.
So yeah, this artist, the people are pretty good, but like, this dude shines with mechanical shit.
Let's be clear. The artists make everything about Power Rangers look cooler than it does in real life.
Dude, Rocket Fingers. And it's funny because I took a picture of Rocket Fingers, and then like 2 pages later, there's Zach or Billy going, "Rocket Fingers, yeah!"
He's playing in the Dragon Zone. He's like, "I can really dig Rocket Fingers."
I also so they go to the moon. They go to the moon to try to save Billy because I want to say Billy. And one of the things I really like is that Zach's like, is that Jason is like, I always assumed they could work in space, but we never tested it.
Yeah. All the Rangers. So Tommy, because his power grid works differently than the others' power grid, because he's a Green Ranger.
Because he's off the Dragon Coin.
He's off the Dragon Coin, so he can still get his powers. So the other Rangers are like, "Oh, we're powerless." So Tommy's like, "What if I share my power with you?" And then we get that dope scene of the end of the issue where all the Rangers are now green, and I'm like, that's a cool scene. I like that.
No, also, one of the things I really like is how, even though the Black Dragon is like, he serves Rita, he's like, "Oh, I can help you create this world." He's also honorable to a fault, because when they're fighting in space and time, he's like, "Really? You're going to beat a guy when you're 30 stories tall?" He's like, "Fair point." He shrinks down, and then Tommy's like, "What are you waiting for? Here comes the Dragon Sword."
Don't give him the wrong credit. It is not honor. What it is that he's like, "I don't want you to have an excuse for why you lost." That's not honor. That's, I want you to know I beat you
fair and square
at your absolute best. I want you to know I'm better.
And then Tommy is the guy who's like,
that's one of the reasons why I like Black Dragon's dialogue, like the whole time, is that when he first shows up, he's like, "I'd offer you surrender, but I don't think you're going to take it." And they're like, "Yeah, there's no chance in hell we're surrendering." He's like, "Well, then it's settled. Good. I think less of you otherwise."
Yeah, the Black Dragon.
I forgot about that one.
The coolest part of
Black Dragon has, I mean, his design is rad, but also the fact that like when he was able to like change his size at will, I'm like, whoa, he can do that.
The revelation that Billy has when he's like, "Wait, is that an access hatch?"
He's all mechanical.
He's a Zord.
Yeah,
I like that revelation. And I like that it's Billy. Billy comes to Tommy and is like, "Hey, I know what's going on. We can get inside this thing."
And then after the fight, like, they cut his arm off or something, and they look at the arm and they're like, "This is pieces of the Dragon Zord. This is not a replica. This is the Dragon Zord." Which is like, because we all know where the story's going, but it's like, oh shit, what does that mean? It's a nice little revelation for them.
And I like that they kind of like discuss, like, is it time travel? Is it alternate dimensions? Like, what is this? Time travel is not real, right? Blah blah blah. And so they're just kind of like, they can't quite understand because they've never had to deal with something like this before.
Yeah. And then
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, one of my favorite parts is also seeing the alternate history when Billy and Tommy are in that world, and Tommy gets Saba, and then Lord Draken shows up, and you essentially get how essentially like the quote unquote flashpoint where the decision where Tommy decides to join the Power Rangers or he decides to stay with Rita Repulsa after losing the Sword of Darkness. Because he sticks with Rita and him pointing the dragon dagger at Jason's head and saying, now about that new power of yours, and him coming up in the new costume holding a helmet.
Oh, real quickly,
helmet was pretty freaking cool.
You reminded me of another piece of art that I wanted to highlight. When the Black Dragon is doing his like shockwave thing, and you see their like costume like kind of like strip away.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah, where he like negates down their abilities.
Yeah. I think that it's like almost like skin peeling off them. That's so cool.
Yeah, like their helmets are fading away a bit. It's like, oh, that's rad.
Real quick, there's a great line about time travel that you kind of brought up, Brandon. Okay, but like that's crazy, right? Is time travel even possible? Hey, it's no weirder than power coins and dragon zords. And he's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. It's not.
I also like when Billy's like, this is either the future or an alternate timeline, or both. Yeah, or both.
Yeah. That alternate timeline is super cool. There's now, the big Vita and Tommy statues next to each other.
There's a
giant floating head in the battle.
Yeah. As a fan of Power Rangers from ages ago, I recognize some of these new Zord designs that went to like help the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fight Rita's forces.
There's a huge splash page of the battle, and it's like, man, oh man, that's so dope. What's with the big head? Big head?
There's the big head. There's the Falcon Zord. There's the dragon, like the Serpent Dragon Zord thing. Like we're losing Ben. Ben's kind of glitching a bit.
Oh no!
All right, so that was me.
Looks like it won a turtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like that character's like the big head's like Sandman. Like, what are you doing here, Morpheus?
Are we talking about all the Megazords that we see?
We see Zords that are from future shows, and we also see Power Rangers that are from past shows in that flash, in that kind of like a splash page.
They said allies new and old came together.
Yeah.
This is the battle.
Is this the Falcon Zord from the movie?
I don't know. I haven't been ages.
I'm pretty sure it is because I remember a friend of mine had the toy, the Falcon Zord, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, "Oh wow!" They even brought back from the Power Rangers movie after they get all new animals, but their costumes don't change.
Yeah. Yeah. This is okay. So Saba, which is a talking sword. I'm all about it. I think that's the stupid shit that I love.
A talking sword that can move upon its own will, just float through the air.
Is Saba short for Saban?
I think so.
Is that just a fun joke? It's Saban.
Or Saber?
Or say Saba?
Saber? Saba? S-A-B? Oh, no, I know what you're saying. But S-A-B, Saber, Saber, Saba, just take out the E-R and put in an A.
Sure, or just add an
N. Yeah. I think it works either way.
I just think it's super silly. I love it. We meet the bad boy. We learn that the Black Dragon, all purely mechanical, was a vessel for some eviler being, and then we finally we get to meet Lord Draken, old man Tommy Boy,
who is Tommy Oliver from a parallel future dimension,
where he decided to stay a bad boy.
He won.
If you play, I brought it up to you guys, but for the people listening or watching, there's a Power Rangers fighting game called Battle for the Grid. It's very cheap, or I got it for free on Game Pass. It is the storyline of this comic, except it's voice acted by all the actors from the television show. So all the Lord Draken stuff is voiced by
Jason David Frank.
Jason David Frank, thank you, and all the other Rangers show up sporadically. So if you're interested in this shit, there's a fighting game for you.
So the tie-in for that was a little short video with Jason David Frank reprising his role as Tommy as Lord Draken. It's really cool. The costume they designed is awesome.
Yeah. This is definitely when this was coming out, I thought this was cool. I thought this was very cool. Fortunately, I didn't stick with it.
Lord Draken was such an influential kind of pop culture figure after a while. Because there's a pop figure of him. He's in a video. Jason David Frank has played him now.
Yeah.
In live action and in video games. Like he was such a kind of a sea change for Power Rangers, where people kind of looked at that like, oh shit, there's a new awesome Power Ranger villain.
I'm just wondering, because while I was reading this, I was thinking, this is exactly how you do a Force Awakens with Power Rangers. This is exactly how you do it. You get a brand new cast of teenagers, and then you have the alternate future evil Tommy be the one who's fighting them, right? You can do big bombastic stuff while also doing original Power Ranger stuff. And I'm like, oh man, just imagine seeing like the Black Dragon on live action screen. Like that would blow my brain away. But I don't know if they have the confidence or the talent to want to do that.
Yeah, we'll see whatever that new Hasbro Power Rangers movie is going to be.
Yeah. But I think this is again, besides like not truly getting some of the characters, I think the story itself is really compelling, and it's doing something new, which a lot of people really enjoy. Like obviously this run is still going on. It's on issue like 54 or something.
I think the fact that it is Billy and Tommy in the alternate dimension, future dimension, it helps because they're also the two of the most well-rounded characters right now.
Yeah.
So you are compelled to follow them.
Yeah, and it's nice that it's Tommy getting to discover this other version of himself that he could become.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah.
Also,
that is. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say this also might be a different way of how Tommy becomes the White Ranger. Kind of because you see Saba, you see the sword that it's like cool, and you see the Tiger Zord. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Lord Draken is a combination of the Green and White Ranger.
Yeah. I mean, my own personal bias aside, it is really cool to see Saba, the Tiger Zord, and all other stuff.
Sparks.
Yeah, it really is. Just the biggest damning thing is I just have a hard time caring about characters that they're not fleshing out.
I feel like Kim is like barely in this.
I care more about Goldar than half of the Power Rangers.
I love Goldar. Dude, there's a scene where Goldar is next to Rhea, like he's coming back through the portal, and all of the henchmen are like, "Welcome back, Goldar! Yeah, Goldar's back!" And I'm like, "Yeah, he has friends." I thought that was really sweet.
And then Finster says, "Oh, I'm undertaking my greatest project." Yeah, he's like, "What are you making?" And then Rhea's like, "A better you." I'm like, "What are you doing?
Right.
What are you gonna do?"
Yeah, I wanted to spotlight that part that we were talking about earlier that was problematic with Zach after you read the fill-in issue where he goes right after Tommy, where it's Zach challenging him and he says, and that's what opened the portal, and because it's about the green energy that was charged, and Tommy's like, yeah, and he's like, so this dragon thing is tied to you somehow, and he's like, yeah, somehow, and he's like, but you have no idea how, and he's like, no, Zach, I don't, and they're like yelling at each other, and I appreciate that they wrote Kim telling them to take the testosterone down.
Yeah.
But I'm still like, but why? Why is Zach like this? Because why is Zach the guy that has to be like this? It doesn't make sense.
Because again, Zach is exactly the person who knows what he's going through.
Right.
Because this almost happened to him too. So it's interesting that he's the one on the attack. It's so interesting.
And it was just it was an unnecessary attack at that. And it's like you're hurting your own character development to create this strife that didn't even need to exist because it fulfills nothing. I appreciate that like later in the story, Zach is becoming a little more like engaged. When he's talking to Trini, he's explaining like, I know it's easy to think you should have handled stuff differently. Trust me, I think about it a lot. And like it feels like Zach is carrying the weight of having at one point being tempted to take Rita's offer. But I wish that they would do more with these. Like we're 12 issues in and I want to care more about some of these Rangers, guys.
Yeah. I super appreciate them focusing on the villains a lot, but at the same time, like it's about the Power Rangers and like you should focus on those characters first before anyone else.
Like we kind of talked about this the first volume. I feel like we needed another whole volume or something before all of this so that I'm invested in the Rangers before Tommy, before the Black Dragon. Because like, I don't even think it's a matter of, oh, are you familiar with the Power Rangers? Are you familiar with the show? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like I need to care about these characters as this iteration is in this moment. And I can't if I don't know them and I don't know them.
Yeah.
I like when Jason throws the Dragon Zord at the Black Dragon.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Again, Rocket Fingers, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just swiping through some of the pages.
Again, man, like the art, like the people look good, but man, those Zords, like They look so. This guy should draw just a mech book. Just draw a mech book, please.
It's 3 issues past the fill-in issue that they finally like let Zach and Tommy have a moment where they're talking to each other, and Zach's like, "Yo, man, I'm sorry. I think you're a good ranger, and I feel like I've messed up." And I'm like, "Cool, that should have been here a while ago."
At least it happens, I guess. Yeah.
Cool concept where they all get turned into Green Rangers.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool concept.
This is back to the Bulk and Skull stuff real quick. There's a great monologue by Rita. She's like, "Ugh, modesty. It hurts my ears. Know this, fearsome dudes. I appreciate your awesomeness. I know it and who you are, the coolest heroes around." And I was like, "Oh, Rita, that's silly."
Talking about Billy's fill-in, because we didn't talk about his fill-in issue too much. I like that it's all about him conquering fear. Even as he is a superhero, he feels like he's always afraid. And it's Zach, again, like them letting Zach be a developed character now. Zach who comes in and he's like, "Hey man, it's totally like standard and qualified to be afraid. This is scary stuff.
We're teenagers fighting giant monsters.
You don't need to feel bad about being afraid." And like the concept that Billy feels weird because he's always morphed in his suit under his clothes.
Yes, that's like
that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's like a defense mechanism. Like he has to hide because he's always scared. Yeah.
I really appreciate that there's the opening of the issue. I mean, like, again, I wish I cared more about these characters and their family relationships, but I feel like I only care about Tommy's pretty much at this moment. But I do like that they open up an issue where like the kids are back with their parents and hugging them.
Yeah.
But Billy and Tommy are missing. So their parents are distressed.
Yeah.
And they end up talking at the school about it. And like
really
they're all telling like one lie about where they were.
Yeah. I like that. I like how the dialogue goes from one character to the next. Even when Tommy and Billy's parents know that they're missing, they're calling the police looking for their. It's the same dialogue.
Same. Yeah, I thought that was a well done beat.
Lord Draken's cool.
Yeah, he is cool.
It's a cool design.
I really like when Saba just summons the like a Zord to come save them. And it's just like, yeah, okay, I could just do this. Bye.
It's like, here's the Tiger Zord, and we're gonna take the Falcon Zord to fly away. So peace.
So at the end of Volume 3, we meet
the Coinless.
The Coinless.
Yeah, the Coinless.
Is that Bulk? Is that supposed to be Bulk?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I feel like we've seen enough of them, and they've never mentioned once anything about that. It just happens to look like a bigger guy, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. If it is, that's a surprise.
Is the African American girl supposed? We haven't read the next volume, so maybe it is. But is the African American girl? Do we think is supposed to be the Trini's replacement in Mighty Morphin?
Maybe?
I have no idea.
I forgot the character's name. I feel bad about that, but whatever.
No, I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued in where it'll go.
The Coinlet. So are they like super badass martial artists, but they don't need Power Ranger coins? Like that's cool. Curious about that. Maybe they're the previous Rangers. Ooh! I don't know.
Okay, so I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean we covered a lot of it. I think I think overall, like more than anything, I think what keeps me coming back is the art. I'm not gonna lie. And then secondary to that is like certain characters are really well done.
Yeah.
And I am interested and invested in them at this point. But I'd say about half the cast, and I'm not even targeting half the Power Rangers, but half the cast of characters. I'm
genuinely curious if, like, because I feel like Kim is like not really involved very much. I'm genuinely curious if because she has her own comic, they're trying to not focus on her a lot. I'm really curious because, like, for me, like when you think of that show, I think like, of course you think of everyone, but like I think a lot of people think of like the White Ranger and the Pink Ranger, right? Like those are like the favorites or whatever. I feel like Kim is not even in this comic barely. Like she has a couple lines, but like I don't feel she's adding very much to it. I'm like, I guess we'll wait for her one shot, right?
Her and Jason both tend to feel like generic good guy, good girl.
Yeah.
And that they will only say like the best things because they're alpha male and alpha female, and they are just there to be like, hey, you know, it's gonna be okay, buddy.
So with a more of a teenage voice.
I really appreciated how Trini got more to do with like technology this time.
Yeah.
She was like, she helped out trying to figure out with Alpha,
I'm glad that she had that opportunity because she's trying to fill in for Billy.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know who Trini is.
Yeah.
Like outside of that,
she's a tech lady.
No, she's not. She's trying to
No,
fill
I
in
know.
for Billy
No, I
because
know.
Billy's tech guy. And she doesn't even like figure a lot of stuff out. It's mostly help from Alpha, who's able to contact them.
Oh yeah,
through his head thing.
It's good to know that he can be decapitated and still be fully functional.
I do like that they're thrust into a challenge where like they can't contact or find Zordon.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be gone.
Okay, so I guess we'll continue. We've agreed before we start recording that we'll continue with this series, at least for the next episode. So the next time will be volumes 4 and 5, which collects issues 13 through 20. So
Dang, it's still just 8 issues?
Yep.
That sucks. That sucks so bad. But it's 4 issues. I'll be honest with you guys right now. If the character stuff doesn't pick up, I might be vetoing next week.
Well,
Even though the art's incredible, I can only take so much non-characters for so long.
That is the point of the series. There was also a couple of annuals that were collected in another volume. If you guys want to read those, you're welcome to.
They're not. Wait, in another volume? They're not in the volume that they're supposed to be in?
There are 2 annuals 2016 and 2017, which were collected in Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Lost Chronicles Volume 1. So,
if that's just 2 annuals and that's gross. That's I really hope it's not just 2 annuals in that comic.
The way they collect the series is not good.
It's kind of bad.
We'll talk about. Let's say that we'll talk about those issues and those annuals.
Okay, so there you go. And hey, maybe I'll read the Pink Ranger stuff. I don't know if I care enough. Anyway, that'll do it for this. So next week, definitely check those out. We got our first episode. If you're watching this, why didn't you watch the first episode? Go watch that first episode, guys.
That's weird, y'all. Weird.
There are other Fake Nerd Book Club episodes on this channel right now. We have 3 volumes of Wasted Space out right now. We have the 1 volume of The Pride. We did veto that one. So we only got the 1 volume of that. And we also have other videos on here. Basement Arcade, which got the Avengers beta, multiplayer and single player. More Basement Arcade coming. We have our Fake Nerd Watch series, which we are currently doing. Lovecraft Country. That's Sparks, Ryan, and I doing Lovecraft Country. 2 episodes are up now. 3rd one coming. Obviously, there's a 3rd episode coming. We just recorded Umbrella Academy, so that's coming soon, or that might be up by the time you're watching this. Definitely check those out. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, click the bell icon. We put a lot of stuff on this channel. We do a quarantine cast podcast right now. We're doing live shows for our podcast on this channel. It's also going up on our audio feed as well. We're talking about Bill and Ted this weekend, and New Mutants. New Mutants has finally come. We get to talk about that.
Just so you know, we are almost at the same number of videos as we have now podcasts.
Wow.
So we are almost at 400. We might be now almost at 400 things we put out.
Wow.
Damn. Yep.
Guys, we put out a lot of stuff. There's a lot of good stuff.
To be fair, a chunk of those videos are the podcast episodes. So
yes, that's still like we got shit. We got stuff.
Again, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. You can find us at the fakenerdpodcast.com, where you can find all the cool stuff we got going. Links in the description below. Fake Nerd Podcast at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. Ben?
You can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27 on both Instagram and Twitter.
Sparks?
You can find me talking about Umbrella Academy Season 2 at Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Ryan?
Hey guys, you can find me at DJ Tony Snark everywhere. Just type that in and I'm there.
Do you guys feel like the Power Rangers are probably the easiest cosplay to do because like their costumes can look like shit and they still look like the Power Rangers?
You can go to like Spirit Halloween and get like the spandex. Like, yeah, it looks like it's from the 90s. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, you just get the spandex. The only money if you really want to spend on it is just maybe the helmet.
All right, guys. And until next time, stay fake nerds.